Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the main card fights for UFC on ESPN, Ngannou versus Velasquez. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the main card. So in our first fight on the main card, we have in the featherweight division, Fili versus Miles Jury. So looking at this fight, I see a pretty evenly matched fight. Similar styles, similar builds, and this match up pretty evenly in my opinion. You got two of their like skinnier, lankier featherweights facing off against each other. They may not be 6'2", 6'3", but they're 5'11", or 5'11", 5'10" at featherweight, which is pretty tall. And they got kind of those slender frames, present similar threats to their opponents. When I look at his striking, I think Miles Jury has a little bit better with his hands. Fili's a little bit better with his kicks. Fili's a little bit faster. On the ground, I see the biggest gap. I think Miles Jury is the much better grappler. But the thing is that Fili's takedown defense has been phenomenal over these past couple years. It's been hard to take him down and even harder to keep him down. So I see this fight pretty much playing out on the feet. I don't think Miles Jury's takedown offense is the most phenomenal. So I think Fili should be able to keep it on the feet. And I think it plays out more like a striking matchup. I think it's very close on the feet. And it could go either way. But I'm going to use a cheat code for this fight and say that, or bring up the fact that Miles Jury last fight was a loss to Chad Mendes, who's an alpha male fighter. And alpha male seem to have this discount that if one of that fighters beat you, then all of them beat you. Because I guess they've been running the smaller weight classes so long that they pass the tape around so well and they train with each other and they just pass on knowledge well, pass on things they found successful in their fights, and they do a good job of beating opponent once one of their fellow teammates have beat their opponent. So I'm gonna kind of use that in a very close fight. You're gonna try to find any different way you can lean to a different fighter. And I think Fili coming off a split decision loss to Michael Johnson, who was one of the fastest fighters in the sport period, a real good striker. He was able to strike with him pretty much the whole fight. Maybe got outstruck by about 2 strikes, but he did get a takedown. It was probably the fight that Fili should have won based off the decision going to him, but it didn't. It went to Michael Johnson. But yeah, I think he was able to strike with Michael Johnson. That's a good fight to come into this fight. You coming off fighting Michael Johnson, so you're fighting clearly a much slower fighter because Michael Johnson is pretty much, as far as this hand-wise, the fastest fighter at 155 and 45. He basically all pure, just punching. He's the fastest fighter in 55 and 45. So to deal with him, everybody's going to look slow once you're finished fighting him. So I think that's going to be something he can bring to this fighter's advantage. The fact that he's an alpha male fighter, facing a fighter that a teammate has already beaten, he'll have a lot of tape on him and a lot of experience, like first-hand experience, or I say second-hand experience. Because he's getting it from the first-hand guy, whatever the case. He'll have that experience relayed to him. He'll be able to pick him apart, or at least find openings that he can take advantage of in a very close fight and just do those things to edge him on decision. This is a slight different thing, those slight little details or slight little advantages he could add to this fight to just slightly edge Miles Jury on decision. Keep it on the feet, keeping the striking matchup, but just edge Miles Jury by a little bit. Just that much better, just using that stuff just to find a way to find advantage and secure it, take advantage of it, and win the fight. Very close, could go either way, but I'm going to lean to Fili. So in this fight, I have Fili via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the welterweight division, Vicente Luque versus Bryan Barberena. Two exciting fighters. Bryan Barberena, if you like fighting and you like people that enjoy the fight, like people that come to bring it, you should love this guy. You shouldn't be like, oh, I don't like big names. This guy is some guy you gotta love. He's fun. He's a exciting fighter. He comes to bring it all the time. He doesn't gas out. He's just pure excitement. Vicente Luque, he's a beast, a monster. He's a slaughter machine. He's a finishing machine. He's a highlight reel. If you sleep on these two fighters, you should not sleep on. Whether win or lose, two fighters you should not sleep on. Always exciting, never in a boring fight. Two solid dudes. But to get into the prediction, I think Bryan Barberena, where his style is more so, he's not a phenomenal striker, not a phenomenal grappler, but he will outpace you. He's a grinder. That's what he will do. But against Vicente Luque, he's facing a better grappler, in my opinion, and he's facing a much better striker. And a guy who can take advantage of small, weak openings. And I think Bryan Barberena makes a lot of openings, makes a lot of wide shots, a lot of different things. He tries to be awkward and stuff with the stuff he does. It's still technical, but it's kind of awkward. And those leave openings. I think Vicente Luque is the wrong guy to have those openings against. He likes those little short openings to, catch you on the inside and put you to sleep. And he's done it in pretty much all of his wins. That's how he done it. When people make those mistakes trying to be creative or trying to do something, overcommit, he catches you with counters or just rips you apart. When you make a mistake, he starts to find those mistakes and he pick you apart. Really what beat Vicente Luque is clean technique and consistency. It's not like Vicente Luque has a cardio issue, so I don't think Bryan Barberena's going to be able to grind him anyway, whether it be in striking forward pressure or grappling. I think Vicente Luque beats him in grappling, beats him in striking, maybe the forward pressure, but I think Vicente Luque will accept that forward pressure and counter it. So really, I just think it's going to be more so Vicente Luque, being the person to dictate the pace of this fight, where it's going, what's happening in the fight. And I think he's just the better striker, the overall better fighter, and he won't really allow Brian Barberena to play into, have his way or make it his style of fight. It won't be like a grinder type of fight where Vicente Luque is getting tired. Vicente Luque will be ready for him all the time. Vicente Luque issue is definitely not his cardio or being broken down due to pace. And certainly at least not unless it's some super high level wrestler. And he's deals with those guys on a regular basis. He trains with Kamaru Usman, so I'm pretty sure he's ready for somebody that's going to really want to grind him forever. So he's for sure ready for grinders in the highest level of grinders. So in this fighting, Vicente Luque just keeps it where he wants to dictate the pace of the fight. I think he has to get him out of there in the second round via TKO. So in this fight, I got Vicente Luque via second round TKO. Now on to our next fight we have in the featherweight division, Alex Caceres versus Kron Gracie, Bruce Leroy versus the Gracie boy. So I think this is actually a pretty bad style matchup for Caceres. I don't know why he even chose it. Maybe he just feel like his jiu-jitsu's good enough, or maybe he feel like he's more well-rounded than Kron Gracie, more experienced. But Caceres has a tendency to get manhandled sometimes in fights. And that's something you can't afford to do against somebody with that high level of a black belt in like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that experience, that accomplished. I think on the feet he will be to have his opportunities. But I think once Kron Gracie gets a hold of him, he'll get a hold of him. It's not like Caceres going to defend his takedowns all that well. I think Gracie will be able to manhandle him to the ground. And then once he gets him to the ground, it's going to be pretty much all she wrote. I think Caceres is going to have his fun for have his way for about the first couple minutes. Then once Gracie gets a hold of him, Kron Gracie gets a hold of him, I think it's going to be done. And I think it's going to be a first round submission. So in this fight, I got Kron Gracie via first round submission. Now on to our next fight we have in the women's strawweight division, Courtney Casey versus Cynthia Cavallo. So Courtney Casey, her record might not show it, but she's a beast. She's a tough out for everyone. But the reason why her record is why it is because she just makes some poor decisions. I don't know why I'm talking like Mike Tyson. She makes some poor decisions in fights. She just makes some very poor decisions in fight. Like she might give up some grappling changes. She might slow down. She might throw the wrong punches. She might come with the wrong strategy. She might fight land back too much. She's like sometimes she's making some poor decisions in fights that cause her to lose. She could be in the lead, then she just like the rabbit in the hair. She just let the fight get away from her. She just makes some poor decisions. And I think grappling wise, that's one of her bigger openings. As big as she is, like she's always seems to be getting out grappled by smaller women. Like that's where you cutting all this weight. You're so big, you're supposed to be manhandling these smaller chicks, but you're letting them out grapple you. Then you go against Cavallo, I think can contend with her on the feet. And I think Cavallo's a much better grappler than her. And she's a big strawweight as well. She's not a small strawweight. She's a pretty big strawweight. Well, she was a big. What was she, a flyweight? Nah, featherweight. Yeah, strawweight. That's flyweight. Flyweight's above strawweight. Strawweight's 115. Flyweight. So they still at strawweight. They haven't moved up, but they're both big strawweights basically. They're both big 115 pounders. So Casey won't have her usual size advantage. She won't have a speed advantage either. So she's fighting another bigger strawweight with and she's not really getting any advantage by fighting that bigger strawweight. Matter of fact, she's gonna have more disadvantages now. She's already had a struggle with grappling with smaller women. Now she's gonna fight a woman basically around her size, who's a high level grappler and can continue with her feet. So I think Cavallo is like overall the better fighter, and like maybe I might give Casey a slight edge in striking, but I give Cavallo a huge edge in grappling. And as far as how she mixes her game up together, she mixes up much better than Casey. And I think this could look a lot like her Cavallo's last fight. She went out there with a deadly striker, posing figure, big, huge, and all that stuff, and he showed that I'm more well-rounded than you. I could like give you some trouble on the feet. Then when I want to, I'll mix it up and take it down and take you out. And I think that's what's going to be like in this fight. She's going to mix up with a Casey on the feet, give her some work on the feet. It's not going to be like she's going to be one-sided, but she'll give her something to look at, something to respect. And then just when Casey thinks it's a striking match, or I think she got the pace of the fight figured out or something figured out, Cavallo's going to do what she does. She's going to make it an MMA fight. She's not going to just make it a fight that Casey fight. She's going to take advantage of all the Casey's openings, her openings to takedowns, her openings to her mental lapses, take her down. And then I think have her way with it. I think maybe not the first round submission, maybe not second round, but I think it's going to be like a third round wear down effect. It's caused Casey to have her typical kind of mental breakdowns. Then the third round, I see Cavallo sinking in the choke or sinking in the submission and getting out. Like, so first two rounds kind of wear down, getting her feel for Casey and what's her openings, her tendencies. Then in the third round, it's fully taking advantage of those opportunities and those weaknesses and taking her out. So in this fight, I got Cynthia Cavallo via third round submission. So again, Cynthia Cavallo via third round submission. Now to our co-main event. Now on to our co-main event we have in the lightweight division, James Vick versus Paul Felder. So looking at this matchup, you have two accomplished lightweights who have been in there with some of the best, but have yet to truly break into the upper echelon of the division. James Vick is 9-2, and Paul Felder is 7-4. But how do these two match up? Paul Felder would give up a lot of height to Vick, who is 5 inches taller, and I think that will be crucial in this fight. James Vick has only suffered 2 defeats in his career, and basically both losses came in similar fashion, and it's not like those two fighters were tall fighters like Vick, but to other fighters roughly the same height as Felder. I think Felder can present similar threats as those who have beaten Vick in the past, but I don't think he presents the style necessarily to replicate the success that those two previous opponents had against Vick. Paul Felder can apply pressure, but he's not the best at cutting the cage off, cutting the ring off. He has heavy kicks, but are those kicks as heavy as Gracie, who tries to kick your kneecap off, or Darius, who will slam heavy kicks to your body and legs frequently, kind of like a RDA style when he was champion? I don't think so. And also Felder would have to cut the cage off to land those kicks, and he's not the best at that. Is in the Barboza fight, he had limited success really catching up to Barboza, really getting in range to strike with Barboza. And also in the Pearson fight, he got peppered up by Pearson's boxing, struggled to cut the ring off, and that's why he lost both of those fights. Now, Vick, on the other hand, prior to losing to Gracie, he was on a 4-fight winning streak, one of the longest winning streaks, or active winning streaks at that time. And 2 of those 4 wins came to solid strikers in Duffy and Trinado, with Trinado already having a dominant victory over Felder. But this isn't MMA math. I just think that the reach of Vick will be a problem for Felder, stylistically, and he struggles to cover the ground, and Vick will be able to tag him coming and going. I don't see a stoppage because of how tough Felder is, but I see Vick winning this one. I think it'll be a very competitive and exciting match, as neither man rarely ever engages in boring fights. And it's not like Vick's defense is all that great that he's just going to be fighting like he's some point fighter, and he's not really a point fighter either. So it's going to be strikes landing on both sides, but I don't think Felder really is the best at cutting the cage off necessary to, really do that serious damage, fight and the damage that will damage Vick. So I see him like Vick using that range and picking, really landing the heavier shots, the more telling shots with that distance, countering and going against Felder. But yeah, neither of them rarely ever engages in boring fights. But stylistically, I just feel this fight favors Vick. So in this fight, I have James Vick via decision. Now on to our main event we have in the heavyweight division, Francis Ngannou versus Cain Velasquez. So we have the long-awaited return of Cain Velasquez coming back to face the resurgent Francis Ngannou, freshly rebounding off a 2-fight skid with an emphatic first-round TKO over Curtis Blades. This fight is a bit airy. It's the first official fight on ESPN, just like Cain Velasquez versus Dos Santos was the first fight on Fox a couple years ago, which featured Cain versus a heavy puncher, just as this fight features Cain versus another heavy puncher. And we all know what happened in that fight. So if you are superstitious, then yeah. So how do these two fighters match up? You got a heavy hitter in Ngannou versus one of the greats in Velasquez, a D1 wrestler with ridiculous pace and a well-rounded skill set, but a suspect chin. Cain is the favorite, and he should be, but Ngannou should not be slept on at all. And betting-wise, he's a good bet. Cain hasn't fought in a while, and though his performance was dominant, his last opponent, Travis Brown, has done a great deal to take away all the value out of that victory by getting finished by as many opponents in the UFC's heavyweight division as possible. So that victory doesn't look all that impressive now. So as far as where does Cain stand, we don't really know. But I expect Cain to be a beast, and I expect him to be a hungry beast. I think Ngannou's actually, but yeah, so back to Ngannou. I think Ngannou is actually I think he's actually underrated, what I'm saying. It's crazy as that may sound. I went back and watched some of his fights, like his old fights prior to his rematch with Curtis Blades, and notice how well he would set up strikes, and that his takedown defense and grappling really weren't as bad as the Stipe fight made it seem, or made it out to be, and his fans made it out to be, and analysts made it out to be. I think with the Stipe fight, he just went in there looking for the KO instead of setting it up. He was looking for something, but he really wasn't setting it up. It was like he just had a vision, and he was so eager to land certain strikes instead of actually setting them up. And he walked over his punches, which allowed Stipe to get those initial takedowns that began the drain effect. Prior to that, Stipe struggled to get the initial takedowns, or really failed to get those initial takedowns. I think Ngannou, with his power, he doesn't really have to load up at all, or really that much. Matter of fact, not even at all. He just has to touch it with his punches, like with the first and especially the second Blades fight. He didn't run over his punches in the first or second Blades fight. He kept him at the end of his punches and capitalized on opening over the top, just trying to chase him down, and not like really just trying to chase him down and throw overhands up, because he just set his punches up, kept his distance, and fought smart, fought technical. He didn't fight like, you know, a barbarian or a brute. He fought like, I have power. I don't have to be some blind beast who just runs over people. I see a shot, I land a shot, I got the power. I want nothing more, nothing less. So when Ngannou maintains his range, he actually sets up his strikes. He's hard to take down, and he's a hard person to deal with. He has a strong hips, and that distance gives him ample time to respond to takedown attempts. I think he could beat anyone in MMA if he maintains that range and he stays focused and actually throws punches, unlike the Lewis fight. But now on to Cain. On the other hand, you already know what Cain presents. He'll be on you till the ref or the bell takes him off of you. He'll smother the range, attack nonstop, attack relentlessly. So I think in this fight, he'll be looking for the takedown pretty early, not risking trading with Ngannou. That's too much power to be dealing with. And he'll be looking to exploit the wrestling and grappling. And Ngannou is great at defending double legs. So I think Cain will look for singles or, you know, maybe shot and reshot, shoot and reshoot type of stuff. Or, you know, to try to initiate clinches, like clinch exchanges and stuff like that. Or initiate the clinch. I don't see things going smoothly with the initial takedown attempts or the initial grappling attempts. But I think Cain is relentless. So I see him gradually breaking Ngannou down with his pace till the takedowns become somewhat easy or present themselves more frequently. And as he start like a breakdown effect that's constantly relentless, not stopping, and just in Ngannou's face the whole time, making Ngannou have to deal with all that stuff, whether on the striking, on the grappling, when it's mixing in, and not really knowing what's coming next. And just, I think he's going to break him down. And then once he starts getting him down, he's going to ground and pound him over the first 2 rounds, then take him out in the 3rd round with his trademark vicious ground and pound. So in this fight, I see Cain Velasquez winning this fight via 3rd round TKO. So that concludes my fight predictions for UFC on ESPN, Ngannou versus Velasquez. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.